Hello, fellow Econauts, and welcome back to our show. I'm here with my brother Ben, the Rocketman. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey Simon, hey fellow Econauts, how's it going? Today, we suit up.
When was the first spacesuit used?
Well, the first spacesuit was used by Yuri Gagarin when he did the first manned space flight. That was 1961. And but the first spacesuits or high altitude suit was already designed in the 30s, 1930s.
What are the key technologies that has to be in a spacesuit?
It depends a little bit on the actual mission. A mission or a spacesuit on Mars will look different than a suit that is worn on the moon or in space when you're on a spacecraft. But essentially, pressure maintenance. Our body, we like atmospheric pressure around our body, so we don't want any vacuum or any higher pressure. We also want a cozy 25 to 30 degrees temperature range. So therefore, the spacesuit has to be able to shield us from any discrepancies of that or even changes if it's dynamic in the environment. We need a life support system. We also like to breathe oxygen. That is very nice. And then if you have prolonged extravehicular activities, you might want some water as well. And then some more urgent things. If you wear something for that long time, you need to also maybe to relieve some urges, human urges. But yeah, and on top of that, maybe a bit more mundane are the communication systems. So you want to be in contact with mission control, or with people on the spacecraft, and the last thing, and this I think is something where a lot of design and brain knowledge has been put in, and that is the mobility and dexterity. So you can build a block which shields you pretty much. I mean, the spacecraft, you could say it's also sort of a space suit because it protects us from all these things I just mentioned. However, you can't really do much as a person in terms of fine work or fine dexterity required work.
I'd like to inject here one question. I'm not really sure if you mentioned that, but I also think it's very important to consider visibility. Everybody who is riding a motorcycle knows exactly that a helm that is like not giving you enough visibility left and right is not as great as something that has like a huge visibility where you can also see something that is like,
Very true, very
yeah,
true. And
right.
also makes a huge difference. So this is a function that's not maybe directly a function of the spacesuit. However, it's very important. You want the wearer of the spacesuit to be comfortable. Otherwise, you can get psychological stress as well. And you're already in a very stressful situation, and you don't want to put on top of that. So visibility, knowing what happens around you, is definitely helpful. And also being able to move if you're feeling constrained, that won't help you performing your task.
Especially if it is for a longer period of time. I think if it's just for a short, mission where you may have to do a small task, you can maybe overcome those claustrophobic fears. But if it is a longer mission, then definitely not.
Exactly, yeah.
So, what are the components for a spacesuit?
I think that's pretty straightforward. So obviously, we start with a helmet. The helmet, you just mentioned the visibility obviously gives you your window to the outside world. Probably also a head-up display inside, so you can get some important information as well. Obviously, also, this is where most of the air goes to breathe. Then you have the gloves, so you want to be able to grab things. Maybe they need to be very fine in movement, depending on the task. If it's something where you just have to move heavy stuff, you might get away with mittens. But if you want to perform very fine tasks, you need something where you can move your fingers very well. Then you have the upper and now you can see it, the lower torso. So meaning, a lot of technology will be put in here. Also for the lower torso, which includes the legs, you will also want to be able to move it somewhat. You often have a backpack. The backpack contains the life support system, maybe a jet propulsion system, so you can move, again, depending on the task. And the legs, obviously, and in the feet. So we need also boots. Again, depending where you are. If you are on the moon, would be different than if you have to walk across a satellite or a spacecraft.
What are the challenges if it comes to the design of a spacesuit?
I think I mentioned a few key points already, but on the one side, mobility versus protection. On the one hand side, obviously you don't want to be fried by radiation. You don't want to freeze to death. So you need to have enough material and technology around you. However, you also want to be able to move. Otherwise, you can't even perform your task. If you're in a rigid spacesuit and you can't move, but everything else is good, doesn't work. And obviously now, as soon as you introduce any moving parts where you can bend your arm, now you get the problem if there's a pivot point or something like that, and it can slide over each other. You have to seal it, or you have to build it out of one tube. So you get the point. I think it's getting quite complex. So then weight and size is a consideration and challenge in designing. You want this spacesuit to be practical. Again, depending on the task, but in general, you want to reduce weight if you have to transport it off our planet. Every kilogram less is a lot of saving, as we discussed in an earlier episode. Also, you want to store that. Volume is also a big consideration, bringing anything to space. In space itself, weight might not be as big of a problem because you are floating. But again, if you then want to be on Mars, on the moon, on any other surface, you might want to consider the gravity or the gravitational impact when you have a very heavy spacesuit. Material durability is also another key point when you design. There might be lots of materials available that are fit for the task, but they might not last very long. So you don't want to have to design or change the spacesuit every time when you wear it. Like you don't want a one-time use spacesuit, which comes to the last one, which is again then is a bit connected. So far, spacesuits are custom fit. So every person, although we are as humans have very similar physiologies and appearance, still every spacesuit is a custom fit for each individual. So you might want to find out how to overcome that as well, so that you can standardize the production of spacesuits if you want to build more than only a handful.
How has the spacesuits changed over the decades?
When you look just in the historical pictures, a lot of changes have been implemented in spacesuits, coming specifically from design of better components, of composite materials, better technologies, miniaturizing of certain technologies. So some things can change in terms of size. So I think especially in size, a lot of things have changed. If you compare older spacesuits, which are way more rigid and people can't really move in that. Think of a knight's armor. It's like you can't really move in that, or a subnautical device where you go underwater. The bigger ones you can't really move. And nowadays, if you compare, for example, with the SpaceX suits, they are much cooler designed as well. There's an aspect of appearance, which obviously wasn't or might not have been the most important design feature for the first spacesuits, but nowadays appearance also becomes important. But because of better materials available, you can have way more visibility. So I think the helmets have a very large field of visibility now. They look more sleek. They're smaller. The backpack is smaller because of the technology is getting smaller. Obviously, depending on how much air you want to carry, that might not change. You can't change the volume of air at a certain temperature and pressure. So that is a physical boundary, let's say. Yeah. So, but otherwise, I think yeah, the spacesuits nowadays, they look much more sleek and smaller.
I can imagine that also you have some sort of HUD inside your spacesuit, so if you probably can use something to that you don't had like with the first spacesuit, so that you have a display available, like a little screen, like
Yeah, the head-up display.
yeah,
Yes, yeah,
that's
I
probably
believe
yeah,
so. Yeah.
that's probably something that is like a lot easier to implement these days than it has been like 40, 50 years ago, where the technology didn't exist, right?
Exactly, yes. So with the that's also part of the design. You can design certain parts of the glass to be more reflective from the inside and so on. So that is more favorable for a head-up display. But yeah, in general, features like that you will see more often in helmets these days than in helmets in the past. Also, as I said, the design, like SpaceX obviously designs for a larger amount of people, and therefore the whole modularity and the way these spacesuits are built and actually manufactured is also different to the past, where everything has been done by hand, pretty much.
All right, fellow Econauts, now we would like to know from you, what do you think is the most interesting fact about spacesuits? And if you like this episode, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already.
And if you want an extravehicular activity, do that and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any episode anymore. And also, don't forget, we have already a quite large library of episodes, and we encourage you to watch those as well.
And I hope I see you next time. Have a good one. Bye bye.
See ya.